I would now like to welcome the winners of the 4th Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Knowledge Award. Representing the Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdul Aziz Foundation is Uhud Al-Afraj. Second, Japanese scientist Hiroshi Komiyama. And thirdly, but not least, Wendy Kopp, founder of Teach for America. Please welcome on stage.
هم الطاقة الحقيقية والقوة الحقيقية لتحقيق هذه الرؤية، وهي أهم ميزة بالنسبة لدى السعودية هي الطاقة الشبابية اللي فيها. والميزة الجيدة أنهم شباب واعي قوي لديه طموح رائع، مثقف، متعلم بشكل جيد، مبدع، لديه قيم عالية. باقي فقط نضع الرؤية ونعمل عليها.
Empowering young people leads to a stronger future. But how do we support young people so that they thrive in this rapidly changing world? How do we equip them with the knowledge and skills they need to create a modern, sustainable economy? Our foundation, MISC, was established by His Royal Highness, Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, in 2011 to discover, develop, and empower young people to overcome the challenges of today and contribute to the advancement of tomorrow. We focus on 4 areas. In education, we help young people move from learning to earning. In technology and science, we establish tech accelerators and incubators. In arts and culture, we showcase and promote the work of talented artists. In media, we support the creation of innovative content and inspire our audiences. We know that these opportunities have no boundaries and cannot be achieved alone. So, we collaborate with the world's leading organizations, universities, corporations, NGOs, and governments to provide new horizons for young people to thrive. In our first 6 years, through 100 events, programs, and initiatives, we have served over 1 million young people from more than 65 countries. This is just the start. We want you to join us on our journey as we work to invest in our greatest and most valuable asset, our young people.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سأقدم بعد هذا الفيديو القصير اللي يمكن أعطاكم بشكل موجز مختصر عن مؤسسة محمد بن سلمان بن عبد العزيز مسك الخيرية. سعدنا اليوم بحصولنا على الجائزة، وسأقدم تقريبا مختصر لما نقدمه من خلال المؤسسة في المجتمع السعودي للشباب السعودي وكذلك لشباب المنطقة والعالم. مؤسسة الأمير محمد بن سلمان بن عبد العزيز هي مؤسسة خيرية غير ربحية تكرس أهدافها لرعاية وتشجيع التعلم وتنمية مهارات القيادة لدى الشباب من أجل مستقبل أفضل للمملكة العربية السعودية. لتحقيق هذه الرؤية تركز المؤسسة على الاهتمام بالشباب في أنحاء البلاد، وتوفر وسائل مختلفة لرعاية وتمكين المواهب وكذلك الطاقات الإبداعية وخلق البيئة الصحية لنموها والدفع بها لترى النور بإذن الله واغتنام الفرص في مجالات متعددة. مجالات الاهتمام في المؤسسة هي التعليم والإعلام، الثقافة والفنون وكذلك التقنية والابتكار. تدعم ركائز المعرفة مجتمعنا في المستقبل، وكذلك من خلال تمكين الشعب السعودي نحو التعلم كوسيلة للتطوير ودفع التقدم في الأعمال التجارية والتكنولوجية والأدبية والثقافية والاجتماعية لأمتنا أجمع. مؤسسة مسك الخيرية مؤسسة أنشأها صاحب السمو الملكي ولي العهد الأمير محمد بن سلمان بن عبد العزيز في عام 2011، وتسعى لبلوغ هذه الأهداف من خلال خلق البرامج والشراكات مع المنظمات المحلية والعالمية في مختلف المجالات، وكذلك مع مجموعة متنوعة من الحاضنات، حيث تستثمر مسك الخيرية في تطوير رأس المال الفكري وإطلاق طاقات الشباب السعودي وشباب المنطقة. سأذكر يمكن لدينا الكثير من المبادرات ولدينا الكثير من البرامج التي نقدمها داخل المملكة وخارجها. على عجالة سأذكر عدد منها أو كأمثلة بسيطة لما نقدمه. نقدم في مجال العلوم في مجال الثقافة والفن حكاية مسك. حكاية مسك هي تظاهرة نقدمها للمجتمع بشكل عام وبشرائحه المختلفة، وعلى الأخص الشباب من عمر تقريبا 15 إلى 35 سنة، ندعمهم ليتعرفوا على كيفية رواية القصص وكيفية كتابة المحتوى بشتى أنواعه. حكاية مسك أقمناه ل5 مرات في هذا العام في مختلف مناطق المملكة. تقريبا زار هذه التفاعلية أكثر من 350 ألف زائر من 28 دولة. وبإذن الله الأسبوع القادم سنخرج بهذه الفعالية إلى خارج المملكة، وستكون لأول مرة في مدينة أبو ظبي بإذن الله. كذلك سأذكر مسك آرت. مسك آرت هو مهرجان فني أقمناه في المملكة العربية السعودية للمرة الأولى في مدينة الرياض، وهو يجمع أعمال فنية لفنانين سعوديين وعالميين. نتيح لهؤلاء الفنانين الاحتكاك بنظرائهم من مختلف دول العالم وتعريفهم بالفن السعودي، وكذلك الاكتساب وإكساب ما توصلوا له من مهارات متقدمة في هذا المجال. أقيم كذلك المعرض خارج حدود المملكة للمرة الثانية في مدينة باريس بالشراكة مع منظمة اليونسكو. كذلك من البرامج التي نقدمها في مجال التقنية لدينا البرنامج بالشراكة مع يوداسيتي. هذا البرنامج يقدم برامج تدريبية نوعية للشباب السعودي المشاركين. تقدم له هذا البرنامج أكثر من 3000 شاب وشابة سعوديين، بنسبة 70% منهم من الفتيات في مجال تقني ليتعلموا مهارات تقنية عالية المستوى بشراكة مع جهة عالمية كيوداسيتي. أيضا من ما نقدمه كذلك العديد من المؤتمرات والمنتديات التي نقيمها على مدار السنة في مختلف المجالات. أقمنا منتدى مغردون ل5 سنوات متتالية. لعل النسخة ما قبل الأخيرة كانت بمشاركة وزراء خارجية دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي، والنسخة الأخيرة كانت مصاحبة للقمة السعودية الخليجية الأمريكية. تناولت عدد من القضايا ذات الأهمية الحيوية في المنطقة وكذلك في العالم كالإرهاب والتسامح وكيفية محاربة التطرف من خلال منصات هامة في هذا المجتمع الشبابي وهي منصات التواصل الاجتماعي. كذلك أقمنا منتدى مسك بالشراكة مع منظمة اليونسكو للمنظمات غير الحكومية. جمعنا في هذا المنتدى على مدار يومين أكثر من 3000 مشارك ومشاركة، منهم 300 منظمة غير حكومية عالمية. خلال يومين تبادلوا الأفكار والرؤى حول كيفية تطوير دور هذه المنظمات لتنمية مجتمعاتهم بما يحقق لها الازدهار والاستدامة بإذن الله. وشارك فيها أكثر من 70 دولة من مختلف دول العالم. الأسبوع الماضي في الرياض احتضنت الرياض منتدى مسك العالمي لمدة يومين، وهو منتدى أقيم للمرة الثانية هذا العام. يركز هذا المنتدى على الشباب والابتكار والمعرفة وكذلك تمكين الشباب لمواجهة التغيير في مجتمعاتهم. شارك في هذا المنتدى أكثر من 5000 مشارك ومشاركة من 75 دولة من مختلف دول العالم. أطلقت مسك في هذا المنتدى مسك جراند تشالنجز لتحفيز الشباب على الوصول إلى حلول لمشكلات حقيقية تواجهها المجتمعات العالمية في مجال التعليم. سيفوز بهذه المسابقة تقريبا 100 فائز بجائزة تقدر $100,000 أمريكي. سيعلن عنها خلال السنوات الثلاث، سيعلن عن الفائزين خلال السنوات الثلاث القادمة بإذن الله، وتتاح المشاركة في هذه المسابقة لجميع الشباب من مختلف دول العالم. كذلك أطلقنا في هذا المنتدى Youth Global Survey، وهو شارك في هذا الاستبيان وهذه الدراسة تقريبا 21,000 شاب وشابة من 21 دولة مختلفة. كان الهدف من هذه الدراسة هي تحديد القضايا التي تواجه الشباب في مختلف دول العالم لتمكنهم أو التي تحد من تمكنهم من التطور والتقدم نحو مجتمع قائم على اقتصاد المعرفة. ونتائج هذه الدراسة أيضا سيتم الاستفادة منها للخروج بمبادرات مختلفة تعزز تمكين الشباب بإذن الله. لعل ما أختم به هو أو أفضل حديث يمكن أن أختم به هو اقتباس سمو ولي العهد المؤسسة صاحب السمو الملكي الأمير محمد بن سلمان، حين قال: نحن نفكر بطريقة مختلفة لأن أحلامنا مختلفة وعنان السماء هو طموحنا.
I am very pleased and honored to receive this prestigious award. I sincerely thank His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for his generosity. Also, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to all the people who make this happen. We are living a very special era in human history. This sphere shows this fact very clearly. Please note that the horizontal axis shows 1,000 years. Human activities have continuously been growing, but very slowly in our history. Please note, in the 20th century, human activities began to expand dramatically and rapidly. The atmospheric CO2 concentration soared. The global average per capita GDP has increased 7 times. What surprised me is the average life expectancy. It was 31 years at 1900. It was very short. But now 72 years, because the average life expectancy is presumed to be 25 years in the Greek or Arabian days. Only 6 years grew in thousands of years, but 41 years increased since the 20th century. The driving force of this abrupt change is the improvement of productivity by the Industrial Revolution. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, humans became affluent, able to enjoy longevity, and at last began to change our planet, the Earth. This fact is the basic reason for concern about the sustainability of human civilization. Can we solve the trilemma of affluence, environment, and human happiness on our finite Earth? This is the very basic question of our days. I am confident we can do it. So, I wish to share with you the vision of my Vision 2050 and a Platinum Society. In the 15 minutes allowed for me, it's a very short time, but I will do my best. One of the important concepts of my vision is saturation. Sooner or later, the population of the world will be saturated on our finite Earth. But how many will be the maximum population? And when will it occur? That is important. According to the latest demographic research, the world population, which is 7.3 billion now, will continue to grow for a while. But it will peak at 9.6 billion around the end of this century. The world population will not explode, but peak. Even now, in about half of the world, the birth rate is smaller than the birth rate that maintains the current population. Given that the fertility of the world has continuously been declining, saturation of population at a reasonable level of 9.6 billion within this century is very convincing. man-made objects will also be saturated. For example, the number of cars owned is saturated when there is one car for every 2 people. This saturation of artifacts is not hypothetical, but the reality in most developed countries. How many new cars are sold every year then? Saturation. The answer is straightforward. In Japan, 60 million cars are running now. This number has been nearly constant in the last 2 decades. The average life expectancy of the car is 12 years. 60 divided by 12 is equal to 5. 5 million cars are scrapped each year. The same number of cars, new cars, are sold, and total number of 60 million is kept constant. This is what is going on in developed countries. Cars are saturated there. What is the fortune of the scrapped cars? They are not thrown away, but they are recycled. Iron is melted and used for making new steel. This is the cycle of cars, and it is the same for buildings, bridges, refrigerators, television sets, and so on. The accumulation of the artifacts, therefore, is called urban mines. Importantly, the iron once manufactured from iron ore goes through the society permanently. This means, under saturation, the steel we need to make new artifacts is equal to the steel scrapped. This also means that, under saturation, we do not need iron anymore. The urban mines will replace natural mines. This story holds true for other metals as well. Please be cautious in investment. Next key question for considering sustainability is when saturation will occur worldwide, not only in developed countries, but also worldwide. These red lines show total amount of iron existing in Japan. The blue line shows an annual increment. Before 1950, very small number of cars and buildings existed in Japan. During the high economic growth period of 60s, 70s, and 80s, many artifacts were accumulated. Surely enough, saturation of iron has occurred in Japan. The total amount of iron is 1.4 billion tons. This is the reserves of Japanese urban mines. This amount corresponds to 11 tons per person. It is reasonable to assume this value, 11 tons per person, is the measure of saturation of iron. Now in China, 9 tons per person of iron already exist in Chinese urban mines. If going on as it is, within 5 years, it will exceed 11 tons per person, the saturation value, and iron will be saturated in China. Soon it will come. How about the world? When world saturation will come? Now 4 tons per person. I presume in 2050, world saturation of iron will come. Because iron saturation means saturation of the basic infrastructure. It will change our civilization from the ground. including society, industry, business, and jobs. This is the reason why I think that the year 2050 will be the crossroads of human civilization, and why I drew Vision 2050 instead of 2010 or 2070. Next question, which is better, iron scrap or iron ore as a raw material for making steel? Iron ore exists in the form of iron oxide due to the presence of oxygen in the atmosphere. On the other hand, iron scrap is iron itself chemically. Then, which is more energy efficient, removing oxygen from iron oxide or melting iron scrap for making steel? The answer is obtained from theoretical reasoning and factory survey. Melting requires energy 27 times less that of removing oxygen. 1/27th is the theoretical value derived from the fundamental law of thermodynamics. The actual value in the real factories is 1/3. Theory predicts the superiority of the scrap over the ore qualitatively, and furthermore, the quantitative gap between 1/27th and 1/3 indicates the possibility of energy saving by improvement of technology. So, the world of recycling will be a highly energy efficient society. Also, without doubt, recycling of aged artifacts is much more comfortable for people than digging rocks from underground. In conclusion, it is possible to build a better society based on urban minds with keeping the earth more clean and beautiful and making people happier. If I wish to tell the whole outline of Vision 2050 and the Platinum Society by talking about global warming, energy, water, food, nature, forests, and in particular, human and society, my talk would last for days. So now, let's rush a conclusion. The vision that I talked now is new knowledge, isn't it? I believe it is. But most of the pieces of knowledge which I compose my vision are not new. They are existing knowledge. What I did is to mobilize the right pieces of knowledge from the ocean of knowledge for building a vision for sustainability. Over the last 100 years, atmospheric CO2 increased 1.5 times. The average life expectancy tripled. The per capita GDP 7 times. These were huge increases, but knowledge has increased by furthermore. It can be 1 million times or even 1 billion times, I think. Increase of knowledge is a good thing as a matter of course. However, it was so much that nobody could grasp the whole picture. We do not have any means to properly use the excess knowledge. If we use the right knowledge for the right purpose, we can solve most of the challenges we are facing. I define this process as knowledge structuring. The target of this award is production and dissemination of knowledge. this is very correct and timely because it is the era of knowledge explosion. I believe that the bridge between production and dissemination is structuring. And I hope that what I did and your comment is structuring. Thank you very much again for the award.
Good afternoon. I also want to thank the UAE leadership for its efforts to recognize knowledge achievements around the world. It's such a great honor to be recognized, along with such accomplished guests at this esteemed event, so thank you. I hope everyone out there is hanging in there with us. I know this is a tough spot right after lunch. But I'll share just a bit about my story and what I've learned now over the last 28 years in this journey. I came to this work initially as a college student 28 years ago. I never would have dreamed that I would still be pursuing the same idea or that it would take me around the world and certainly to here in Dubai. So this was back in 1989 when in the United States I was a student at Princeton University, and our generation was known as the me generation. Supposedly we only cared about ourselves. We all wanted to go work in banks. And I just thought that wasn't right. I knew so many people in my generation who were searching for a way to make a real difference in the world. And I thought the issue wasn't the generation, but rather the recruiters, all of which at that time were investment banks and management consulting firms banging down our doors asking us to commit just 2 years to work in their firms. Now, as a public policy major and just a concerned college student, I had become more and more concerned about the inequity in my country. The United States, a place that thinks of itself and calls itself a land of equal opportunity, and yet I knew that it wasn't one, that where children are born predicts their educational outcomes and in turn their life outcomes. And one day all this came together and I thought, you know what, why aren't we being recruited as aggressively to commit just 2 years to teach in our low-income communities as I was being recruited and we were being collectively recruited to commit just 2 years to work on Wall Street. So that was the beginning, that idea. That was a thesis that I wrote when I was 21 years old, saying that we needed to create something called Teach for America that would do this, that would marshal the energy of the rising generation of top recent college graduates into this arena of working with the most marginalized kids. And I thought it would make a real difference in the short run in the lives of kids, and also that it would make a real difference in the long run by reshaping the priorities of a generation. Because just think how powerful it would be to have our future leaders spend their first 2 years out of college and university teaching in urban and rural public schools instead of working in banks. Over the last now 28 years in this, 50,000 people have signed up to do Teach for America, some of the most outstanding recent college graduates in my country. This is a picture of the 25th anniversary of Teach for America. 15,000 of our alumni had come back together. This is them in an arena in Washington, D.C., to reflect on how much had been accomplished and how much more remained to be done, and to kind of recharge for the journey ahead, because they commit 2 years, but they never leave the work. And about 85% of those 50,000 people who thought they were just going to do this for 2 years are still either in education or working to improve the quality of life and the conditions in low-income communities. One of the very best parts of the journey, though, happened about 10 years ago when I started hearing from people all over the world, from India to Lebanon to Chile to China, people who wanted to do something similar in their countries. And that led to the rise of the Teach for All network, which is a network of independent, locally led organizations in now 46 countries and growing, hopefully soon to be here in the UAE as well. Each of those organizations are brought together by the purpose of developing collective leadership to ensure all children fulfill their potential. They're each calling upon the most promising future leaders in their countries to commit 2 years to teach and to essentially commit their lives to working together from inside and outside of education to effect the changes necessary to ensure all children fulfill their potential. What has kept me going in this and what gives me personally, alongside so many colleagues now from all over the world, feeling probably greater urgency and greater excitement about this work than ever, is essentially the biggest lessons we've learned along the way. And there are so many lessons, but I thought I would hopefully quickly share just 3 of them. The first is that change in education depends on locally rooted leadership. And that this approach that the Teach for All network partners use around the world has proven itself to be an unparalleled developer of the kind of leadership we need. This is a picture of a teacher taken about a month ago in a remote part of Ghana. She's one of the top graduates at one of the top universities in Ghana. She speaks Mandarin. She's incredibly well qualified. And she's teaching her children in a very different way than most students in Ghana are taught. She's working to foster their critical thinking skills and their 21st century skills. What we've seen from teachers like Jane Quist, who's teaching these kids in Ghana all over the world, is that not only do they make a real difference for their kids, but their teaching experience changes everything for them. About 70% of all of these folks, thousands of people now who have done this all around the world, stay full-time in education, and many others realize that they need to leave education to really tackle the issue, to improve the quality of health care and nutrition and other services that kids have access to. So most of these folks stay in the work. And what we've seen over time is that that makes a real difference in communities. So this is a picture of Pune, India, which is one of the first places where Teach for India started placing its teachers. They started working there about 10 years ago now, and they've placed hundreds of teachers now over time in the city of Pune. What's amazing is that not only did the people they've recruited, again, top of some of India's top recent college graduates coming out of the top institutions in India, who've said, I'll do this just for 2 years before I go on and do something else, they have stayed with the work. And alongside many others in this city, they are generating a true movement to improve the educational outcomes in Pune. One of them developed a coalition of the business community and the governmental leaders to create a strategic plan to improve the school system. 3 others have developed teacher development efforts. One is retraining 2,000 government teachers a year. Another is recruiting hundreds of the fresh B.Ed graduates from local universities and retraining them. Another group of the Teach for India alumni in this city convinced the school system to give them 25 buildings, and they've started 25, or they're on a path to starting 25 new secondary schools so that kids will have access to an English medium secondary education where they didn't have that access before. And they're just beginning. What I've seen in my own country now, where we've been working in communities for as many as 25 years, is that over time, this changes outcomes for kids. And I'm going to give just one example of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., because when we started working there 25 years ago, it was the lowest performing of all the major urban districts in our country. The kids there were 2 years behind, 4 years behind kids from higher income backgrounds, and 2 years behind even the kids in New York City who grow up in low income areas. About 4% of the kids growing up in Washington, D.C. were getting college degrees. This is a few blocks from the White House. It's just a true crisis. No one had any hope that the schools would improve in Washington, D.C., and yet they're today the fastest improving urban district in the history of the country. If you meet an average 13-year-old today, they're a full year ahead of where the average 13-year-old was 4 years ago. That's significant change across a whole system. And it happened for many reasons, but if you took all of the alumni of Teach for America out of that system, you would take away the school's chancellors who presided over the change for the last decade, 3/4 of the senior team of the district, 25% of the school principals, hundreds of teachers, the leaders of most of the NGOs driving the change. So this is what we're seeing happen, not only in my country, but now in countries all over the world, with a very intentional approach to cultivating the leadership capacity we need. So that's the first lesson. The second is that as important as it is to develop local leadership capacity, those local leaders can move so much more quickly when they're globally informed, meaning when they're exposed to what's possible and what's working in other contexts. We've started organizing communities of practice among the young leaders in these different countries who are pursuing similar interests so that they can, instead of going through all these independent learning curves, all learn from each other. The alumni in Pune, India would be the first to say that they would never be doing what they're doing now if it weren't for what they learned was possible from gaining exposure to leaders in other countries. So that's the second lesson of our work, that we need to make an intentional effort to cultivate local leadership capacity. Without that, change is not possible. But when we can help those local leaders become globally informed, we'll move more quickly. The third lesson of this work is that this is a very long game. I think in this era that we're in, we've come to think that quick fixes can change anything. We can change the way we communicate overnight with a new technology. We can solve whole diseases with a vaccine. But what we've seen is that in education, we have to step back and commit ourselves to the long game. This is a very complex and systemic challenge. It doesn't start in classrooms or schools, like the inequities that we're addressing. It starts way outside of those. And we've come to realize that we need to resist the temptation to pursue the silver bullet strategies that governments, it turns out this is a worldwide phenomenon where all over the world we want to try to figure out the one thing that will solve this. Maybe we could give every kid a computer, or fix the teachers, or change the curriculum. And what we've come to see is that there is no one thing. This is going to take a long-term, sustained effort, and the only path to the progress we are all seeking is to ensure that the whole ecosystem around children consists of leaders who are aligned towards their learning and development. I'll just close by saying that about a year and a half ago, we stepped back across the whole Teach for All network in a kind of ground-up process to ask ourselves, what is our 25-year vision? What are we working on together over the next 25 years? We came together around a vision of whole communities in every part of the world that are enabling all of their children to attain the education and support and opportunity to shape a better future for themselves and all of us. The reality is that our collective welfare, the peace and sustainability and inclusiveness that we all aspire to, rests on children in our classrooms. And we need to commit ourselves, and I think the UAE's commitment to education is so inspiring, and that we need to see that same commitment everywhere in the world, because without that level of commitment, we will never ensure that today's children are growing as the leaders they need to be, not only to navigate the turbulent economy, but to solve our increasingly complex challenges. So we're so motivated to see communities in every region of the world, and in this region in particular, that are showing what's possible, and I hope and believe that one of them will be here in the Emirates. And so we're, again, so encouraged in our work by the support of the folks in this room and in this country, and just look forward to working alongside you in pursuit of that vision. Thank you so much.